My dad and I shared an unbreakable bond since I was just a kid. When he unexpectedly fell ill 3 years ago, no one was more surprised than me when he married Amanda, after only knowing her for a few months. After his passing, she immediately demanded his entire estate, acting like it was all hers. What she never anticipated was that my father had quietly put plans in place years ago. Before I dive into how I protected my family legacy, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for what's right even when it seems impossible. Growing up as an only child with my father James was the greatest blessing of my life. My mother walked out when I was 8 years old, leaving just the two of us to figure life out together. Dad never spoke badly about her, just told me sometimes adults make difficult choices. Instead of dwelling on her absence, he poured all his love and energy into raising me and building our family business. My father was a brilliant architect who started his company from nothing but raw talent and determination. I remember visiting construction sites with him as early as 10 years old, watching in awe as his drawings transformed into actual buildings. He would place his hand on my shoulder and say, "Gavin, one day all of this will be yours." Not just the business, but the knowledge of how to create something meaningful that lasts. Our bond was strengthened through countless traditions. Every Sunday, without fail, we would head to Lake Clearwater at dawn for fishing. Those quiet mornings on the water created space for our best conversations. During summer breaks, we took 2-week road trips exploring national parks across America. Yellowstone, Yosemite Grand Canyon, Acadia, those landscapes became the backdrop of my childhood memories. When I turned 16, Dad officially brought me into the family business. I started with basic tasks, filing blueprints and answering phones, but quickly advanced to shadowing him at client meetings. He taught me everything from reading architectural plans to managing project timelines to negotiating contracts. By 20, I was designing smaller projects under his guidance. By 25, we were true partners in Anderson architectural design. The secret to success is not just talent, he would tell me, but understanding people and keeping your word. Your grandfather started with nothing but the clothes on his back. He built the foundation that we stand on today. The family estate itself was a testament to our heritage. The sprawling Victorian home sat on 5 acres just outside the city, purchased by my grandfather in 1958 and lovingly restored by my father. The property included a small guest house gardens, designed by a renowned landscape architect, and a workshop where Dad and I sketched our most innovative designs. That house held the laughter, tears, and triumphs of 3 generations of Andersons. On my 25th birthday, Dad took me to our favorite steakhouse. After dinner over aged bourbon, his expression turned serious. "Gavin, you have exceeded every expectation I ever had for you. The business is as much yours as mine now." He slid a folder across the table. "I have taken care of things legally. This is just for your knowledge." Inside was documentation showing he had already transferred 40% ownership of Anderson Architectural Design to me. I was stunned. "Dad, this is too much," I protested. He waved off my concern. "Not too much at all. You have earned it. And there is more in place that we will discuss when the time comes. The Anderson legacy will be protected no matter what." Those words would prove more significant than I could have possibly imagined at the time. The business flourished under our partnership. We expanded from residential projects to commercial developments, even winning a contract to design a new performing arts center downtown. The local business journal featured us on their cover as "The Architecture Dynasty: How 2 Generations of Andersons Are Reshaping the City Skyline." Life was good, our future, secure, our bond unshakable. Or so I thought. The first time I met Amanda Winters was at the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. Dad had been a dedicated donor for years, but he had never brought a date before. She was striking 15 years his junior at 45, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a dazzling smile that seemed to captivate everyone around her, especially my father. "Gavin, I would like you to meet Amanda." Dad said, his eyes lighting up in a way I had not seen since before Mom left. "We met at the Arts Center opening last month. Your father has been absolutely wonderful," Amanda gushed, placing her manicured hand on his arm. He is such a gentleman. They just do not make men like James anymore. I smiled politely while something uncomfortable stirred in my gut. Her designer dress, flashy jewelry, and practiced charm raised immediate red flags, but seeing my father so happy made me push those feelings aside. At 50, after years of putting me first, did not he deserve some happiness within weeks? Amanda was a constant presence. She had apparently sold luxury real estate in California before moving to our city, seeking a change of pace. I discovered she had been divorced twice, though she rarely mentioned her ex-husbands, except to note how financially controlling they had been. Dad invited her to move in just 3 months after they met. Our Sunday fishing tradition became sporadic, then non-existent. Family dinners now featured Amanda's preferences, from the wine selection to the conversation topics. The warmth and ease of our home life gave way to something more formal and staged. Amanda thinks we should renovate the East Wing, Dad mentioned one evening in his office where we were reviewing project plans. The East Wing is Mom's favorite part of the house, I said without thinking. Dad looked uncomfortable. Well, it has been 22 years, son. Perhaps it is time for some changes. I tried to maintain my relationship with Dad despite the growing distance. Weekly lunches at his favorite diner became my way of preserving our connection. During these times, with Amanda absent, glimpses of my old father would return. Yet even these moments were increasingly interrupted by calls from Amanda about urgent household decisions or social engagements she had scheduled. Her interest in our business and properties became increasingly obvious. James mentioned you have investment properties downtown, she said one evening, while pouring herself another glass of wine. I would love to see the portfolio sometime. Real estate is my passion after all. Another time I overheard her on the phone. Yes, the Anderson firm is quite successful. James has built something remarkable. A pause. No, just one son. No other family complications. Then came the diagnosis that shattered our world. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. Terminal. Dad called me to his study to deliver the news privately, his face ashen, but composed. How long, I asked, my voice barely audible. 6 months. A year if we are lucky with treatment. He reached for my hand. I have had a good life, Gavin. Building this business with you has been my greatest joy. Amanda transformed overnight into the devoted caretaker, scheduling appointments, researching treatments, and managing Dad's medications. Yet something felt performative about her newfound role. She insisted on attending every medical consultation, often answering questions before Dad could respond. Then, just 2 months after the diagnosis, they married in a small ceremony at the house. I learned about the wedding just 3 days before it happened. It is what your father wants, Amanda told me when I questioned the rush. He wants to make sure I am taken care of. During the modest reception, Dad pulled me aside into his study. His illness had already taken its toll. His robust frame now gaunt, his energetic demeanor subdued by pain medication. I know this seems sudden, he said, his voice weaker than I had ever heard it, but I need to know she has security. Dad, are you sure about all this? About her, I asked, unable to hide my concern. He squeezed my arm with surprising strength. Do not worry about anything, son. Everything is taken care of. Trust me. His eyes held mine with intensity. Everything we built together is protected. Remember that. As his condition deteriorated, Amanda increasingly controlled access to him. My visits were limited to good days that somehow became fewer and fewer. The business required my attention, but I fought to spend time with Dad during his final months. When he passed away, I was allowed just 30 minutes alone with him the day before. By morning, Amanda called to inform me he was gone. I had not been there for his final moments. That pain still lingers with me today. The funeral was a study in contrasts. Amanda dressed in designer black, dabbing at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, accepting condolences with theatrical sighs. Meanwhile, I stood silently by my father's casket, my grief too profound for public display. Your father was so worried about me, Amanda told various guests within my earshot. He wanted to make sure I would be provided for. The very next day, before I had even begun to process my loss, Amanda was ready to discuss business. She arrived at my downtown office unannounced. "We need to go over the will as soon as possible," she announced, settling into a chair across from my desk. "I have bills to manage and decisions to make about the house." "Dad's attorney has scheduled the reading for Friday," I replied, struggling to maintain composure. "Everything can wait until then." She leaned forward. "I know this is hard, Gavin, but as James's wife, I have responsibilities now. The estate needs proper management." Friday arrived with Amanda bringing along her sister for emotional support. As we gathered in the wood-paneled conference room of Williams and Associates law firm, Amanda sat with the confident air of someone about to receive exactly what she expected. Thomas Williams, our family attorney for over 20 years, adjusted his glasses and began reading the will. The initial provisions were standard, addressing personal items and sentimental objects. Then came the part Amanda had been waiting for. "Regarding the family residence, I leave to my wife Amanda Anderson the right to reside in the property for a period not exceeding 2 years following my death, after which time the property reverts to the Anderson Family Trust." Amanda's smile faltered. "What trust? What does that mean?" Thomas continued. "All business interests, investment properties, financial accounts, and remaining assets are held within the Anderson Family Trust, established 1997 with amendments in 2020, the details of which are separate from this will." The color drained from Amanda's face. "This makes no sense. James and I discussed everything going to me as his wife. There must be a mistake." "There is no mistake, Mrs. Anderson," Thomas replied calmly. "Mr. Anderson was very clear about his wishes." "Who controls this trust?" she demanded. Thomas glanced at me before answering. "I am not at liberty to discuss the details of the trust at this time with anyone other than the trustees and beneficiaries." The confrontation continued at the house that evening. Amanda was waiting when I arrived to collect some of Dad's personal items. "You manipulated him when he was sick," she accused, blocking my access to his study. "You turned him against me so you could keep everything for yourself. Dad made these arrangements years before he even met you," I explained, trying to remain calm. "He was always clear about the business staying in the family." "I am his family, his wife," she shouted. "I took care of him when he was dying while you were busy with your precious business." 2 days later, I received a letter from Bradford Hayes, apparently now Amanda's attorney, claiming undue influence and threatening to contest the will and trust arrangements. The letter outlined their position that James was not of sound mind when he made his final arrangements, and that Amanda as his wife was entitled to the entire estate under spousal rights. When I arrived at the office the following Monday, I discovered Amanda had been there over the weekend. My assistant reported she had requested access to all financial records as Mrs. Anderson. Thankfully, our security protocols had prevented any unauthorized access. That same week, I returned to the family home to find the locks changed. When I called Amanda, she was unapologetic. "This is my home now, Gavin. If you need something, you can make an appointment." I immediately called Thomas Williams for an emergency meeting. In his office, he finally revealed the full extent of my father's planning. "Your father was an exceptionally prudent man," Thomas explained, pulling out a thick file. "When you turned 25, he not only transferred 40% of the business to you, but established a succession plan that would transfer an additional 35% upon his death." I sat in stunned silence as Thomas continued. "Furthermore, back in 1997, long before Amanda, he created an irrevocable trust, naming you as primary beneficiary. The family home, all investment properties, and most financial assets were placed in this trust with amendments made as recently as 2020 after his diagnosis." "Why did not he tell me all this?" I asked. "He did not want to burden you with these details during his illness," Thomas explained. "But he left this letter for you." Thomas handed me an envelope with my name written in Dad's familiar handwriting. I would read it later alone. "What about Amanda's claims?" I asked. "Her position has no legal merit. Your father was of completely sound mind when he made these arrangements. The 2020 amendments were witnessed by 2 physicians who certified his competency. Everything was done by the book." Despite this reassurance, Amanda escalated her campaign. She hired Bradford Hayes, known locally as a ruthlessly aggressive attorney, who specialized in contested wills. They filed a formal challenge to both the will and trust arrangements. The situation became increasingly public. Amanda gave an interview to the local newspaper positioning herself as the grieving widow being denied her rightful inheritance by a resentful stepson. Social media erupted with opinions from people who knew nothing about our family dynamics. Some of Dad's older business associates called me concerned about the rumors circulating. "Your father would be heartbroken by this spectacle," his oldest friend Martin told me. "He valued his privacy and reputation above all." The stress took its toll on me professionally. Client meetings were sometimes overshadowed by awkward questions about the family situation. I lost sleep weight, and occasionally my temper, though never in public. Then Amanda made her most desperate move. Her attorney sent a threatening letter, suggesting they had evidence I had coerced my father into signing documents while heavily medicated. They offered to settle. Amanda would receive the house permanently and 50% of all business interests. Otherwise, they would pursue all available remedies, including criminal charges for elder abuse. This baseless accusation pushed me to authorize Thomas to investigate Amanda's background thoroughly. What he discovered was illuminating. Amanda had a pattern of relationships with wealthy older men. Her two previous financially controlling husbands had both been over 60 when she married them in her 30s. Both marriages ended when the men discovered inconsistencies in her background and financial behavior. More damning was the discovery that she had legally changed her name 15 years ago. Under her birth name, Patricia Winters, there were multiple small claims, judgments, and a dismissed fraud charge. Armed with this information and the rock-solid documentation of my father's wishes, we proceeded to court. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in early autumn, almost 6 months after Dad's death. Bradford Hayes presented Amanda as the devoted wife, cruelly cut out of her husband's will through manipulation. He painted me as the controlling son who could not accept his father's new marriage. When our turn came, Thomas methodically presented the evidence. The trust established 24 years ago, the business ownership transfers that began on my 25th birthday, the carefully documented amendments with medical certification of Dad's competency, and finally evidence of Amanda's pattern of targeting wealthy older men. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, asked pointed questions of both sides. After 2 days of testimony, she ruled decisively in favor of upholding my father's estate plan. Amanda's claims were dismissed entirely, with the judge noting the overwhelming evidence that James Anderson was of sound mind and had carefully planned his estate over many years with consistent intent. The legal victory brought a complex mixture of emotions. Relief and vindication, yes, but also a renewed wave of grief. Fighting for Dad's legacy had been a way of staying connected to him. With the battle over the finality of his loss hit me with fresh intensity. Amanda was ordered to vacate the family home within 30 days. She received only what the will specified, a modest cash bequest and temporary residence rights that she had now forfeited through her legal challenge. According to Thomas, she left town shortly after, presumably to find her next opportunity elsewhere. In the weeks that followed, I invited many of Dad's old friends to the house for an informal gathering to honor his memory. These were the people who truly knew him, not the society acquaintances Amanda had cultivated during their brief marriage. Martin, Dad's friend of 40 years, brought along fishing gear. James always said his best thoughts came to him when he was casting a line with you, he told me. He was so proud of the man you became. Another colleague shared stories from their early days struggling to establish their firms. Your father turned down a very lucrative offer to sell out to a national company in the 90s, he revealed. He said he was building something for generations, not for a quick profit. That evening, I finally found the courage to open the letter Dad had left with Thomas. Sitting in his study, surrounded by his books and drawings, I broke the seal. "My son," it began. "If you are reading this, I have moved on to whatever comes next, and you have discovered the arrangements I put in place years ago. I never told you the full extent of my planning, because I wanted to protect you from unnecessary worry. The business has always been yours as much as mine, and now it is yours to carry forward." I recognized something in Amanda early on that concerned me, a focus on security that seemed to overshadow genuine connection. While I cared for her and appreciated her companionship during my illness, I never lost sight of the difference between new affection and lifelong love. You, Gavin, have been my true partner in everything that matters. Do not harbor bitterness about these circumstances. Life is too precious for that. Instead, remember our Sunday mornings on the lake, the buildings we designed together, and the legacy we created not just in steel and stone, but in the values we shared. I am proud of you, son, more than you can ever know. Tears streamed down my face as I finished reading. Even from beyond, Dad was still teaching me, still guiding me forward. In the months that followed, I honored his memory by establishing the James Anderson Scholarship for Architectural Innovation at the State University. Each year it would fund education for a promising student from a disadvantaged background, giving them the opportunity to build their own legacy. The business continued to thrive. I partnered with Martin's son on the Performing Arts Center expansion, combining our talents just as Dad would have wanted. The family home remained unchanged in its essential character, though I finally renovated the east wing that had stood frozen in time since Mom left. Through this painful journey, I learned profound lessons about planning, protection, and foresight. Dad had the wisdom to legally secure our family legacy long before any threat appeared on the horizon. His careful preparation was his final gift to me. I also learned about recognizing true intentions behind charming facades. Amanda's focus on what she could gain rather than what she could contribute should have been a clearer warning sign. Yet I do not regret supporting Dad's choice to find companionship in his final years, even if that companionship proved self-interested. Most importantly, I gained a deeper appreciation for the values Dad instilled in me: integrity, perseverance, foresight, love. The true Anderson legacy was never about property or money, but about these principles that guide me every day. The pain of loss has softened with time, transformed into a quiet gratitude for the years we shared, and the foundation he built both literally and figuratively. Sometimes, when facing a difficult decision, I still find myself asking, what would Dad do? The answer usually comes to me as clear as his voice on those misty mornings at Lake Clearwater. Have you ever had to protect what is rightfully yours from someone trying to take advantage? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else facing a similar situation. Do not forget to like this video. If you found value in my journey, subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear this message of preparation and protection. Remember, sometimes the most important inheritance is not money or property, but the wisdom to safeguard what truly matters. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength in protecting your own legacy, whatever form it may take.